The faint, almost sweet perfume clinging to his shirt wasn't hers. It was the scent of a ghost, a specter of betrayal that would soon materialize and shatter Olivia's world into a million irreparable pieces. That single alien fragrance was the loose thread that, once pulled, would unravel the entire tapestry of the life she thought she knew, the love she thought was hers alone. How could this happen? And what would become of me now? She wondered, a cold dread seeping into her bones. Stay with this story to witness an intimate journey through the storm of infidelity, a path laden with heartache and the bitter taste of regret, and perhaps discover a reflection of your own strength in the face of shattering truths. Olivia had always considered her relationship with Alex a safe harbor, a comfortable sunlit space built on 7 years of shared laughter, whispered secrets, and the quiet rhythm of a life intertwined. They had plans, a future sketched out in optimistic conversations over late-night takeout and lazy Sunday mornings. His hand in hers had felt like an anchor, a promise of steadfastness in a world that often felt chaotic. She had trusted him with a completeness that now, in retrospect, felt terrifyingly naive. A blind faith she had offered up without reservation, never once imagining it could be so carelessly discarded. The discovery wasn't a dramatic movie scene confrontation, but a quiet, insidious creep of doubt that had begun weeks earlier. Subtle changes in Alex's routine, the new password on his phone he'd laughingly dismissed as a work thing, the late nights at the office that became increasingly frequent. Olivia had initially pushed these thoughts away, chiding herself for being insecure, for doubting the man she loved. But the unease lingered, a persistent hum beneath the surface of their daily interactions, growing louder with each unexplained absence, each vague answer. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind of mundane, unremarkable night that often serves as the backdrop for life-altering events. Alex was supposedly at a client dinner. Olivia, restless, found herself tidying his side of the closet when she saw it. A small, elegantly wrapped gift box tucked away behind a stack of sweaters. It wasn't her birthday, nor was it their anniversary. A cold premonition snaked around her heart as she reached for it, her fingers trembling slightly as they undid the silken ribbon. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a delicate silver necklace, a heart-shaped pendant she had never seen before. The air rushed out of her lungs, leaving her gasping. This wasn't a gift meant for her. She knew his tastes, his style of giving. This was for someone else. The perfume on his shirt from the previous week, the secretive phone calls, the late nights, it all coalesced into a sickening certainty. The room began to spin, the cheerful yellow of their bedroom walls suddenly oppressive. She sank onto the edge of the bed, the small box feeling like a lead weight in her hand, a tangible piece of evidence confirming her deepest, most unspoken fears. Her mind raced, a frantic slideshow of memories, now re-examined through this new, horrifying lens. Were those late nights really about work? Were those hurried phone calls truly from his boss? Each innocent explanation he had offered now seemed like a carefully constructed lie, a brick in the wall he had been building between them. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was a betrayal of trust, of intimacy, of the shared history she had held so sacred. It felt as if the very foundation of her life had crumbled beneath her feet. She waited for him that night, the silver necklace clutched in her hand, its coldness seeping into her palm. Every minute stretched into an eternity, filled with a maelstrom of emotions, rage, a profound, soul-deep sadness, and a terrifying confusion about what came next. When Alex finally walked through the door, humming a cheerful tune, his smile faltered the moment he saw her face, the necklace held out like an accusation in her trembling hand. The air thickened with unspoken words, the silence deafening. His initial reaction was denial, a flurry of increasingly flimsy excuses that only fueled her anger. He tried to gaslight her, suggesting she was being paranoid, that it was a misunderstanding, a gift for a colleague's retirement. But her gaze, steady despite the tears welling in her eyes, did not waver. The evidence was irrefutable. The scent of another woman's perfume, a phantom witness in the room. Eventually, his facade crumbled, replaced by a look of weary resignation. And then, the confession. The words, when they finally came, were like hammer blows to her heart. Yes, there was someone else. Yes, It had been going on for months. Each admission chipped away another piece of Olivia, leaving her feeling exposed, raw, and utterly decimated. She listened in a state of numb shock, the reality of his duplicity washing over her in sickening waves. The man standing before her, the man she had loved, was a stranger, capable of a deception she never thought possible. The days that followed were a blur of pain. Sleep offered no escape, her dreams haunted by images of Alex with another woman, their laughter echoing in the empty spaces of her mind. Food tasted like ash, and the vibrant colors of the world seemed to have faded into a dull, monotonous gray. She moved through her life like an automaton, performing daily tasks by rote, while inside, a silent scream reverberated through the hollow chambers of her heart. Regret became her constant companion. She regretted not seeing the signs sooner, not trusting her intuition that something was amiss. She regretted the wasted years, the love she had poured into a vessel that was clearly cracked and leaking. There was also Alex's regret, a hollow echo of remorse that felt insufficient to bridge the chasm his actions had carved between them. His "I'm sorries" felt like empty platitudes, unable to staunch the bleeding of her wounded soul. The betrayal seeped into every corner of her existence, tainting cherished memories, transforming them from sources of joy into painful reminders of what had been lost, what had been a lie. Photographs of them smiling together now seemed like grotesque mockeries. The future they had planned, a landscape once bright with promise, was now a barren wasteland, shrouded in the fog of his deceit. Her sense of self, so intertwined with their shared identity, felt fractured and uncertain. She oscillated between a burning, consuming anger and a deep, despairing sadness that threatened to drown her. Some days, she wanted to scream, to lash out, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he had inflicted upon her. Other days, she could barely summon the energy to get out of bed, the weight of her grief a physical burden pressing down on her chest, making it difficult to breathe. The world felt fundamentally unsafe. Friends and family rallied around her, offering words of comfort, shoulders to cry on, and practical support. Their love was a lifeline in the turbulent waters of her emotions, but even their well-meaning reassurances couldn't fully penetrate the fog of her despair. This was a journey she had to navigate largely on her own, a solitary pilgrimage through the ruins of her shattered heart, searching for a path forward. The decision of what to do next loomed large, an insurmountable mountain she had to climb. Could she ever trust him again? Could their relationship, so irrevocably broken, ever be mended? The thought of staying felt like a betrayal of herself, a tacit acceptance of his disrespect. Yet the thought of leaving, of dismantling the life they had built together, was equally terrifying. A leap into an unknown future where she would be truly alone. Regret also extended to Alex's side, or so he claimed. He spoke of his foolishness, his terrible mistake, the emptiness he felt knowing he had destroyed something precious. Olivia listened, but his words often felt like a performance, designed to elicit forgiveness rather than demonstrate genuine understanding of the profound wound he had inflicted. His regret seemed more for getting caught than for the act itself. This distinction was crucial for Olivia. True remorse, she felt, would involve a deep empathy for her pain, a willingness to endure her anger and sadness without defensiveness, and a commitment to change that went beyond mere words. What she often received felt more like self-pity, a lament for his own tarnished image and the comfortable life he was now at risk of losing. This made the path towards any kind of reconciliation feel impossibly steep. The impact on her self-esteem was devastating. She questioned her worth, her desirability, her judgment. Had she not been enough? Had she been blind? The betrayal made her feel like a fool, someone easily deceived. Rebuilding that core sense of self, learning to trust her own perceptions again, became one of the most arduous parts of her emotional journey. She had to relearn how to see herself as whole, independent of his validation or deception. Slowly, painstakingly, Olivia began to sort through the wreckage. There were moments of clarity interspersed with days of overwhelming sorrow. She started to see that Alex's choices were a reflection of his own flaws, his own weaknesses, not a judgment on her value as a person. This realization didn't lessen the pain, but it began to shift its focus, allowing her to slowly disentangle her identity from his actions. She found solace in small things, the unwavering support of her sister, the quiet companionship of her dog, the catharsis of long walks where she could let her thoughts roam free. She started journaling, pouring out her pain, anger, and confusion onto the pages, a silent confidant that absorbed her turmoil without judgment. These small acts of self-care were tiny anchors in the storm. The journey through betrayal is not linear. There were days when Olivia felt she was making progress, only to be ambushed by a wave of grief triggered by a song on the radio, a familiar place, or a stray memory. She learned to be patient with herself, to accept that healing was a process with its own unpredictable rhythm, its own ebbs and flows of emotion. There was no shortcut through the pain. Regret, too, evolved. While the initial regret was sharp and self-recriminating, it slowly transformed into a more reflective understanding. She regretted the lost time, yes, but she also began to see the experience, however painful, as a catalyst for growth she never would have sought otherwise. The betrayal had stripped away illusions, forcing her to confront uncomfortable truths about herself and about the nature of relationships. She eventually made the difficult decision to leave Alex. The trust was too profoundly broken, the wound too deep to heal within the confines of that relationship. It was an agonizing choice, one that meant stepping into an uncertain future, but it also felt like the first genuine step towards reclaiming her own life, her own peace of mind. The thought of rebuilding was daunting, yet tinged with a fragile hope. The emotional scars remained, a testament to the battle she had fought. But they were no longer open, bleeding wounds. They were reminders of her resilience, her capacity to survive even the most devastating of betrayals. She learned that her worth was not determined by someone else's inability to cherish her, and that her happiness did not depend on being part of a couple. Olivia's journey through the desolate landscape of infidelity taught her the true meaning of emotional fortitude. She discovered a strength within herself she hadn't known existed, a quiet power that emerged from the ashes of her shattered dreams. The regret for what was lost never entirely vanished, but it was eventually overshadowed by a profound gratitude for the lessons learned and the woman she was becoming. She learned to differentiate between the partner she thought she knew and the person he had revealed himself to be. This separation was painful, but necessary, allowing her to grieve the loss of the illusion without constantly re-traumatizing herself with the reality of his actions. It was a way to honor the good memories, if any felt salvageable, without excusing the bad. The concept of forgiveness also became complex. Forgiving Alex felt less about absolving him and more about releasing herself from the corrosive grip of bitterness and anger. It was a gift she gave to herself, a way to reclaim her emotional energy and invest it in her own healing and future, rather than remaining tethered to the pain of the past. Her understanding of trust was fundamentally altered. She knew she might never trust with the same wide-eyed innocence again, but she also learned that a more cautious, discerning trust was not necessarily a weaker one. It was a wiser trust, born from experience, one that valued consistency between words and actions above all else. The journey was far from over, but Olivia could finally see a faint light at the end of the tunnel. The path ahead was still uncertain, but it was hers to forge. The betrayal had been a brutal, unwelcome teacher, but its lessons in self-reliance, resilience, and the preciousness of her own well-being were invaluable. She was no longer just a victim of infidelity. She was a survivor. She started to reconnect with parts of herself she had neglected during the relationship. Old hobbies, friendships that had faded, personal ambitions she had set aside. This rediscovery was empowering. A reminder that she was a complete and vibrant individual in her own right, with her own dreams and passions that deserved to be nurtured. The regret now was less about the past and more a gentle reminder for the future. To always trust her intuition. To never silence the small voice within that signals when something is wrong. And to never again allow her sense of self to be so completely absorbed by another person. These were hard-won lessons, etched into her soul. The impact of Alex's cheating was a profound and painful chapter in Olivia's life, a period of intense emotional upheaval that reshaped her understanding of love, trust, and human fallibility. It was a journey through the darkest valleys of betrayal and regret, but one that ultimately led her to a higher ground of self-awareness and inner strength. She learned that even the deepest wounds can begin to heal, though the scars may always remain as a reminder of the pain endured and the strength found. Her emotional journey was a testament to the human spirit's capacity to not only survive devastating blows, but to emerge, eventually, with a renewed sense of purpose and a more profound appreciation for her own resilience. The perfume that had once symbolized betrayal now served as a distant memory, a faint echo of a past she had moved beyond. Olivia understood that her story wasn't just about the pain of infidelity. It was about the quiet courage it took to walk through that fire and emerge, not unscathed, but whole and determined to build a future on her own terms, defined by her own values. This experience, in its entirety, underscored the devastating ripple effect of betrayal, touching every aspect of a person's life, from their self-worth to their worldview. Yet, it also illuminated the incredible capacity for human resilience, the ability to find meaning and growth even in the midst of profound suffering and regret. Olivia's journey was a quiet testament to this enduring strength. If Olivia's journey through the devastation of betrayal and the slow process of healing resonated with you, or if you faced similar heartbreaks, please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story matters. Don't forget to like this video if it touched you, and subscribe for more deeply personal stories of human emotion and resilience.